Hello and welcome to my first Chapter 3 video. Chapter 3 is about parallel and perpendicular lines, and we'll start out with Section 3.1, which is Properties of Parallel Lines. Section 3.1 and 3.2 are going to be very, very similar. 3.1 gives you some definitions and some ways. We're going to start with parallel lines and some things we're going to find out about them. And Section 2 is ways to prove that our lines are parallel. We have a lot of definitions to cover, and again, if you need to stop and pause to write down the definitions, that's fine. Okay, so first I'm going to start out with a drawing. If we draw two lines, and they don't need to be parallel, so I'll draw them so they don't look parallel, and then we have a line that cuts across both, then this we call a transversal. So a transversal is a line that intersects two coplanar lines at two distinct points. So this would be one point of intersection, and this would be the other distinct point of intersection. Now, if we have a transversal, then we can talk about the different lines on different angles on them. Okay. So one thing we have are called alternate interior angles. These are angles that are on inside of the lines cut by a transversal and on opposite sides of the transversal. So alternate means that it alternates what side of the transversal it's on. Interior means it's inside. So we can talk about this angle right here, angle 1, and this angle right here, angle 2, and these would be alternate interior. So down here I'll put angle 1 and angle 2. Okay. There's also another set. We could also do the ones that are on the other side. So angle 3 and angle 4 would also be alternate interior angles. Okay. Same side interior angles, these are ones that are on the same side of the transversal and are also interior. So for example, 2 and 4 would be same side interior, and angles 1 and angle 3 would be same side interior angles. Corresponding angles are ones that if you took the two lines and suppose they were parallel and you smushed them together, they would be the ones that would be in the corresponding spot. So if I draw another set, and I'll make these look more parallel, and I'll draw my transversal. If I took these two lines and I smushed them together and made them get closer and closer and closer, what would happen is this angle right here would line up with this angle down here, and so they're called corresponding. So you can think of corresponding or being angles that are in the same position with respect to the transversal. Okay, so for example, if I put some more angles up here, we'll put 5, 6, 7, 8. There's lots of corresponding angles in this picture. So we could do 1 and 7. We could also do 2 and 6. We could also do 4 and 8. And there's one more set, 5 and 3. Now we can do the same thing as the interior, except for this time do exterior. So alternate exterior angles are angles that are on outside of the lines cut by the transversal and on opposite sides of the transversal. So these are alternate exterior angles. So for example, like 7 and 6 and 5 and 8. So 7 and 6 and 5 and 8 are alternate exterior angles. And then the last ones we have same side exterior angles, angles that are on outside of the lines cut by a transversal and on the same side of the transversal. So these, for example, would be 6 and 8 and 5 and 7. So 6 and 8 and 5 and 7. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you look at each one of those definitions, make sure they make sense to you. These are just definitions, and then we're going to learn some theorems and postulates that are based on these. So after you've looked at the definitions, take a look at the example that they have up above and name another pair of alternate interior angles and another pair of same side interior angles. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. You'll find with a lot of these sections, we'll start out with a postulate, and here we do. You need to know which one's the postulate, because remember, postulates are not provable. And then we'll have theorems that are based on the postulate. So the first postulate we have is called the corresponding angles postulate. And this one says, if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the corresponding angles are congruent. So we have to be given that the lines are parallel in order to use this. And then if we're given the lines are parallel and we can see that there's a transversal cuts through it, then we can say corresponding angles are congruent. So, for example, I can say that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 using corresponding angles postulates. The next one we have is alternate interior angles theorem. This one says if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the alternate interior angles are also congruent. So for this one, we have that angle 3 is congruent to angle 1. So they're alternate interior angles and they are congruent. Now, same side interior angles are supplementary. So if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the same side interior angles are supplementary. So if you take a look at the picture above again, angles 1 and angle 2 add up to be 180. So we are in class going to do the proof of theorem 1. So all you have to do for tonight is make sure you know the theorems, and when we talk about it, you know which ones are going to be congruent and which ones are supplementary. And we'll also do the proof for this one too. So we've talked about interior, we also have exterior. So if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the alternate exterior angles are congruent. So for this picture, we can say that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. And if the transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the same side exterior angles are supplementary. So for this one, angles 1 and angle 3 are congruent, but angles 2 and angle 3 are supplementary. And we can write the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180 degrees. That ends this portion, but there is something I want you to look at. I don't want to tell you what it is, but take a look back and especially look at the alternate interior and alternate exterior and same side interior and same side exterior. And there is a way that you can remember which ones are congruent and which ones are supplementary. So take a look and see if you can figure that out, and we'll also talk about that tomorrow. Thank you for watching my video. Have a good day.